consolidations. So as EP, we take the control for every part of the consolidated P&L, including the all the central costs. This is for the people.
That is the support function cost.
Yes, like finance, human resources, quality, project not project management, but marketing, everything. And after that, we are talking about purely P&L for R&D. So we have the cash out for own project and some other part. We have the amortizations of the project, which were capitalized and finished capitalizations, and we have the capitalizations for project in progress. So if we open cash out project, you can see here we have the part of project, including the global project, including the project for US, including the project for China. So if you open this part of the P&L, you can see that on the figures you will find here in the 3 lines, it will be presented differently here in the part of project. My objective is that in each and every reporting we have the same figures, but just a different rhythm, different way of presenting, because we use for different requests, but otherwise it should be harmonized. Otherwise, in the cash out R&D, we have.
What does
some
MS stand for? Spend, monthly spend? MS?
I don't understand the question.
Because it said actual versus MS.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we talk about the project, we have some different tools, information technical tools to have all the reporting, to help us on the project management. MS is shortened for macro schedule. It is used first by the project managers to take into account on the requests for the resources they use for their projects, and secondly, they have the forecast on their expense. When we talk about the cost of the project on OPEX, we have 2 parts. Either is it the cost for the resources working on the project, and second one is the expense, like the prototypes, the tests, something like this. So it is the main 2 parts which we check on the OPEX project cost. Otherwise, here in my report, we don't try to check the CAPEX.
So just what I wanted to add is MS, macro schedule, is the place where every project manager will request for some resources that he will need in order to make advance his project.
Right.
So if I'm managing, I don't know, about the EcoStructure, I will request, I need 10 people, 2 people from India, 1 person from US, and so on. And then
for a month plus some cost.
For the month till the end of the year. And then you put that I need 1 person during the year. And then that is the first point of view. And the second point of view is for the resource manager. He will say, okay, in my team I have 20 people, for example, and I will have 1 person working on EcoStructure, another person working on the PEP switchgear, and so on. And at the end of the day, he will say, okay, I have 20%, but I have a request for 25% or for 15%. Then he can manage how to reply on all the requests. And for us in finance...
So this is more forecast and planning management sort of a thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's actually for forecast. So MS is really for tracking the forecast of the project cost, and also I think it's the tools to communicate, to interface between the project managers and the resource managers.
Got it.
So then we have this MS, and from the other side we have TT, time tracking. It's more or less the same thing, but it's about the actuals. So every month, each and every person will allocate hours on the project on which he spent time. And then we can see if the MS is more or less related to time tracking, forecast with actuals.
Got it.
So that's why here you try to check whether...
So mention just one request. I'll let you go through your demonstration, but then I'll have to sit with you and map the process.
Yeah, yes, of course.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we'll need some time for that as well.
Yes, and also I think that you need to have in mind the maps between the different tools, because we have MS, we
Absolutely.
have contracting,
Yeah.
we have eco, we have sport, we have everything, but everything is linked to each other,
Correct.
and everything should be harmonized, and
Exactly.
it's also our job. So for the project part, my objectives is that I can give the ideas on how much we spend compared to which we focus on each and every project. For example, here, and I have every time three kinds of informations. The first one is the actual cost you spend on each project. So how much you have spent during the month. For example, we have just finished May. How much you have spent on May, and here is the year to date. It means that how much you have spent since January to May. So every time.
So
I
the
have
financial
actual
year is
part.
Jan to December.
Yes.
Okay.
And I compare with MS. So what was forecasted in MS? Here it is the figures was forecasted for the month of May, and here it is the figures were forecasted during the period from January to May.
Right.
The
So-
second comparison.
So switchgear is above the budget for this month, but in this year it's still under the budget, right? That's the way you.
So if we talk about OTM switchgear, for example, it means that for the month of May, they're a little bit above what they are forecasted. 5
Right.
kilos euros for me is nothing. However, if we talk about the period from January to May, they're a little bit under.
Right.
So that's why we have to take into account both of the reasons to have the
Full picture.
picture. The second comparison is on the target, on the budget. So by the end of the year, for the whole year 2017, we have given how much money to each and every project. For example, for OTM switch year, we distribute them 2,100,000 euros.
2.1 million.
Yeah, 2.1 million for their project. So I compare also on the month, here is the linear target.
And what was that right, the ticks and crosses at the end, after that column?
This one.
Now
Yeah. AE. AF, AE. That is ticks and crosses and.
so green is okay, is below
Ah, yes.
budget.
Yes, green
And red
is
is
when
above.
it's below the budget, and red and when it's overspending.
FRF versus FRF.
Actually, we have the targets which are given at the beginning of the year, and then we every, let's say, quarter we have review of the budget, that what we call the RF, rolling forecast.
Okay.
So in this column we are comparing the forecast with the RF, is it?
In the columns, we calculate the gap between the full year forecast and the target.
Got it.
So what is the full year forecast? The full year forecast is calculated with the actual cost since now plus on the forecast for the remaining period of the year. For example, when I say that we are at the end of May, I have to take into account the cost we actually spent from January to May plus on the forecast from
yeah.
June to December,
Got it.
in order to have all the evolutions. Because otherwise, if we take into account only the pure original forecast in MS from January to December, everything had to be changed.
Of
Everything
course,
has been
because if you go,
evaluated.
I don't know, 300 over budget,
Yes.
you need to make sure that the rest of the year is 300 under. Yeah, so
Yes,
that
that's
it
why we
equalizes,
use
yeah.
more or less the full year forecast, but not the original forecast in MS. So more or less is only that.
Is there some kind of trend analysis that you see, for example, based on the last 5 years, you see this project has been demanding a certain period in June, which sort of increases or decreases in
Yes,
To
July?
adjust.
we see the seasonality, you mean?
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
of course.
So does that impact the forecast as well?
Yes.
Okay.
For example, we see that if one project is happening in France, we know that from the first part of the year, January to April, normally they use more resources. They spend more compared to the period between May and August, because for the French resources, they have quite a lot of holidays.
Yeah.
So it will impact your spending. So that's why it's very, very important to see the full year forecast each and every month to see the evolutions of the spending
Yeah.
of each project.
And I think Chirag's question was maybe also, does that help you plan better for the following year?
Yes.
So that you have less of an imbalance between the forecast and the actual spend in the first 3 months, for example.
In fact, our objectives is that the target is given at the beginning of the years only once.
Okay.
However, during the year for each quarter, we try to give the rolling forecast. It
Okay.
means that, for example, by end of March, we see already what was spending during January to March. We will adjust our target.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't really adjust the target, but we see that maybe we will have the landing differently from what we have foreseen at the beginning of the year. So
That's also important for cash, I suppose.
yes,
Yeah.
to see the cash flow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So here you see the ideas of this project, and after that, if we talk about the resources to construct this report, is quite a little bit complicated. I do not hope that it is such complicated. I do not, because we know that in energy, especially for EP, we are very, very strong on the information technology system compared to where I worked before. But still, we have the discrepancy, we have the gaps, we have also the different views, which are a little bit difficult for the project managers and for the management committee to really follow up the cost as they want, as they request. So that's why I have to do this report a little bit manually compared to which we can extract directly from the tools. But otherwise, I don't think that is a good idea. So if we can make sure that all the tools work well, properly, correctly, I'm not sure that this one is complicated to do.
You said EP, what is that?
EP is our division.
Sorry?
EPE
Ah,
is
okay,
our
okay.
division.
Energy products.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to say that normally it shouldn't be complicated. Why I say that? First of all, for the target, we know that the target is communicated to each and every project managers. But also in the tools, we have one tool called Spot. It is SPOT. It's used in fact to manage all the project portfolio, and the target is also input in the tools. So normally you can track the target automatically. However, if we see here in my report, when you open everything, so that we can see by project, you see that I put it manually. So here's one thing that I know that it can be improved, because normally you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Why do you have to put this manually? What?
Because I don't have any means to do that.
But how do you get this, through emails or?
Because it was contracted with the project managers, and after that it was validated in the management committee. But I mean that it was also communicated by Spot. So normally I shouldn't done this manually.
So is those figures, are those in the system somewhere?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Are those in the system? How?
Which system?
Spot.
Okay.
Okay, so just